Stellenbosch Graduate Institute Executive Book Club and our book review on Inspired, How to Create Tech Products Customers Love. The book is by Marty Cagan, and my name is Dr. Riaan Steenberg. I'm a doctor in business management with a focus on entrepreneurship and also the chief academic officer here at Stellenbosch Graduate Institute. Please feel free to ask any questions as we're going along. You can also type on the left-hand side where there is a public chat in case you want to put anything on there. And as you're joining, welcome, and please feel free to ask any questions during the session. You can put your mic on mute, and if you want to ask a question, either click on your name and put up your hand, or you can also just type your question. Please feel free to do that. Okay, so a little bit about this. About the Executive Book Club, the idea is that we read for you. We are looking constantly at different books as we're going through our academic journeys, and also at the same time, if you've got any interested books that you are interested in, we will look at those. So we encourage you to let us know if you want us to review any books. Also, if you're an author and you want to talk about your book, you are welcome to do that. And it's really for us to kind of extract the summary of the key ideas within the book, and also to take it a step further in terms of recommending if this is a book to read and something that you want to spend some time on. Okay. So please feel free to ask questions as we're going along. Okay, so a little bit about this book. Marty Cagan, he's the business owner of Silicon Valley Product Group, and he's an executive product manager. And he started in the late kind of 70s, early 80s, and then beginning 90s to look at the issue of delivering electronic products. And he's kind of a seminal thinker in this area. And he currently runs his own business in which he's advising large companies like Google and Facebook, Apple, and others on their digital products. Inspired is an interesting book in that its first edition was in 2008. Now, that sounds like a long time ago, and in the internet, it's many, many years ago. Remember, that's just after the dot-com boom, and then the early kind of successes in terms of converting digital products. And if we go back to 2008, that's when, Amazon was still losing money, and nobody was actually making any money from the internet. And in 2008, what he really did with this book, it was groundbreaking in that it formalized the product management for a dot-com generation that was shipping really bad products, great concepts but bad products. And it then became a product management guideline for large companies such as Google, Netflix, and Facebook. This is now the second edition, updated in 2018. And it looks at how do you run products at scale, how do you develop products at scale. And there's a lot of new techniques and excellent case studies that show different approaches. For those of you that have joined recently, please feel free to ask questions if you want to. You can type your questions here on the left-hand side. It is an open forum, so if you've got a mic or something like that, you can feel free to ask a question there or just type your question. And we're reviewing the book as we're going along, and yeah, it's your session, so make the most of it. So what's in the book? Okay, I think that's the whole point of a book review, is to give you a sense of what it's all about. So the book is really about key ideas on how to set up and run product teams for technology companies from concept to large scale production. And the thing that you'll get out of it very clearly is defining what a product manager is. Now, I think in a lot of businesses, especially in South Africa, I haven't come across many people that call themselves product managers. But a product manager is somebody that really owns the definition of what we are doing here. and also making sure that teams are delivering on that product and its product vision to the organization. The book also deals with why products fail. So what is the root causes of product failure? And then it talks about a specific concept, which is around understanding discovery, the user experience, prototyping, user testing, product market fit, and product vision process. And we'll talk a little bit about each one of those areas as we're going along. So if I can kind of summarize the key premise of the book, I think we're all familiar with the kind of waterfall model of production, which says that you go from kind of idea to business case, to roadmap, to requirements, design, build, test, deploy. And that all looks very rational. And when we're thinking, how are we going to do this? We all get together, we brainstorm a little bit. We now need to convince somebody that it's a good idea. So that's a business case. We then work out how we're going to get there, etc. So, that's how we've been taught to do business, to think logically, to move around that. But what if you're a really big company and you need to move very, very fast? What Cagan basically outlines here is that there's two core processes. One is we need to understand the objective. So what is our purpose here? What is the thing that we're going to achieve? And then we need to discover what's going to create value, what's usable, what's feasible and viable. And at the same time, we should be delivering it. Okay, so and delivery focusing on scaling out, making it reliable, giving performance, and making it maintainable. So it's far more iterative and far more moving much faster in a very different way to deliver products. And there's certain things that belong in the space of discovery and certain things that belong in the space of delivery, which is very clear on and explains extensively throughout the book. So the book basically challenges us to look at the product process not just as a adjusted waterfall model, but to look at it as a different way in terms of saying, how do we deliver maximum value to the customer as fast as possible? And you would have seen this. The phone that you have today doesn't have the same features as when you bought it, because there's been updates, there's been various iterations, or each one of the apps that are going typically into that space also gets updates, and all of those updates make things easier. That is the kind of thinking that has been inspired by this book, and also that is what it describes, is how do you manage that process, how do you take it into your organization as we're going along. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'll touch on some key ideas in the book. So the idea is that product management is a place where kind of your customer, the technology, and the business meets. Okay, so it's a very interesting discipline, and something that you should be spending a lot of time in I think, any organization, but especially in technology-oriented organizations. I also kind of want to add a qualification to that, to say during the COVID type period, a lot of companies will have to rethink exactly what is the product that they're offering, because the customer has changed. Technology is a new tool that is being used increasingly in business, and the business case of everything has changed. So this is a good time to be innovating your product, as we've seen, many businesses and industries have transformed into essentially digital products overnight. So that's what makes this kind of discussion very relevant. So some of the key ideas is that we need to solve our customers' hardest problems. Okay, and the concept there being that our customers have real challenges, real problems, and we often ask them, "What do you want us to do for you?" which is a reactive way of looking at things. And if we understand the challenges that customers are facing or what they're saying, and we then go solve those, we're creating a new level of solution, and solving, giving people features and benefits that they haven't expected to receive. Okay, and that's for me the best kind of way to think about that is every time, especially in the early days of Apple, every time you got an update to your Apple system, it was like you had a whole new phone. Okay, and it now did a million things that you didn't think it could do before, and it could do it better than you anticipated that it would ever do it. There's people that follow the same methodology as Tesla. They give you the same hardware and they upgrade the driving software, and all of a sudden your car goes faster. That kind of thinking is solving hard problems and doing that in a clever way. You must also internally in your organization solve your hardest problems. You shouldn't be scared to fix the things that aren't working and accept the limitations of your technology. So, and I think we've seen a lot of that in recent years because, for example, Google recently did a thing where they're changing the way that web pages are displayed so that they can stream them faster. So they're changing the actual standards of the internet so that they can deliver content faster. So that's a kind of breakthrough thinking where you're solving really hard problems that make it better for customers at the end of the day. We need to create a culture of innovation. And this is probably the most kind of central or key idea in the book, to say innovation is not something that happens once a year or once a blue moon. It's something that happens every single day. And to create that culture, you have to put in place a whole range of different things. And one of the ideas is that people need to become missionaries that are driving towards a central vision versus mercenaries, which is just people coming, arriving, wanting a paycheck and trying to solve a problem. Okay, give me a problem and I'll fix it. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to drive a mission and a vision and get it done. He also in the book outlines that there is a big difference between Lean and Agile and the way that it is being implemented. And I think what a lot of businesses have done in terms of Lean is to strip out unnecessary cost, which is great. A lot of unnecessary admin, that is great. And they've called that, we're now running Lean. If you go back to the original Lean methodology, the idea is to do everything in relation to the needs of the customers, okay, and what we're doing for customers, and to give customers the best experience. So Lean and Agile have become kind of swear words in our modern corporations for saying that things are happening without budget and needs to be done fast. And we've forgotten the customer in that picture. There's a lot of focus in his book on discovering the need of the customer and how do you put in place a strategy that discovers those needs. And definitely worth reading about that. And then the role of the project manager is looking for those things which will shift the needle. So the product manager needs to focus on making sure that the stuff that is put in place are the things that will change the adoption of the product over time. So the product manager is not a project manager. Okay, it is a person that is there to look at what features and benefits will deliver more adoption in our customers so that we're getting traction and moving that. Also, a common kind of technique is objective and key results, which is a way to unify the organization against a particular goal and let everybody own that goal and get everybody to work on the same success methodology. Cagan states that when a product is good and is adopted, that's a good team that made that work. And when a product fails, that is a product manager that created a bad product. So he's very clear on putting the blame on the product manager for a lack of adoption. And two ideas which I'll expand a little bit more is the product market fit and the product at scale. Product market fit being a very, very important. So he differentiates very clearly between the customer and the company. So, and he makes the point to say that we're there to satisfy the customer and not necessarily to run the company. Cool. So to expand on this one idea of the product market fit, He uses a great example that basically says one company went and gave everybody in their business like virtual money, like monopoly money, and asked them to buy features from the product team. Okay, and he said that that was the stupidest thing that I've ever seen, and that that product absolutely failed. And he documents the case very clearly on how the company failed. But in asking what went wrong there, he basically concludes that if we do what companies want us to do internally, we'll always get into a state of politics. It will be about power and trusting people's opinion and gut. And while there is some value in that, the real people that know what will work is the customer. So the objective of a product market fit is to build your product during the discovery phase to the point where the market will adopt it, and then to get it to work better. So, and you might be tempted to think that that's market research, but some companies ask customers what they want and aggregate this. And Cagan states that the challenge is that design must create products that solve the underlying hard problems and lead to customers getting what they want. Okay, so nobody stood up one day and said, I want Netflix, for example. So, he takes this example as well. And he said, the customers said that they want a better way to choose from a lot of videos in a video store because it takes them too long to find a new video. And there's often videos on the shelf that's out. Okay. Now, to solve that problem is fairly easy. You know, you have a better display in the store, and you could remove the videos that are out so that they're not on the shelf, so that people can't choose them, etc. And then you would have solved the customer's problem. But what they did actually is they developed an algorithm to present options to the customer based on what was in stock, and started delivering those choices as DVDs initially. And then they had to buy thousands of copies of each DVD that they put on their list. And that got them to a point where they realized that they could deliver some of this via the internet. They started negotiating for rights, and they had those types of things. It was a simple idea, but it had a great product market fit. And if you just solved what the customers told you, you wouldn't have solved the problem, because there are other video companies that just increasingly did better displays, etc. But the problem was people wanted video on demand, according to selections that are available. And today, I think there's very few people in this world that hasn't come across the Netflix as a concept. Yeah, and they're constantly innovating every day. Yeah, please feel free to ask any questions if you want to at any given point in time. It's there. You can also type your questions in the public chat, which is on the left-hand side. This is part of the Executive Book Club for Stellenbosch Graduate Institute, where we review books as we are going through them. The recording will be available after the session in case you want to follow up on that. Okay. One of the concepts in the book that gets a little bit of attention is to talk about the minimum viable product. Now, the idea was kind of first documented by Frank Robinson in 2001, and most people that have been involved in startups or entrepreneurship in some way or form have read The Lean Startup by Eric Ries that came out in 2011. Marty Cagan wrote about the idea of a minimum viable product in 2008 in the Inspired First edition. And the idea was to build a minimum level product that can ship to a customer. And what he's done in this edition is to make it clear that what some companies are now doing is they are putting so much effort into developing a product that is basic and shipping that to customers and waiting for customers to tell them what's wrong with it. And he said that that's really not the idea, and it was never the idea, and that we need to focus on a minimum viable prototype. So where we are doing a kind of a concept or a mock-up or a limited set of a product, testing it with a couple of customers, measuring the results until we get past the discovery phase, which means that we've gotten to a point where there's product market fit. and then we start delivering the product. So in delivery of the product, we design the product, we test, we write code, we release it. If it's more physical, you follow a fairly similar process, but there's obviously parallel processes of production and probably more complex money flows. So I thought that was a very useful kind of concept to reflect on, to say that there is a minimum viable prototype and that you do that during the discovery phase of developing a new tech product. So the core of the book is how to make a great product, which is kind of in the title. So the kind of basic process that I think will be useful to everybody, and you can read obviously more about each one of these steps in the actual book. Get a team, design a product concept, but don't get stuck on that product concept. It needs to be realistic. It needs to cover all the bases, but then engage with users. Okay. And the reason why he engages with users up front is if you wait too late and you do too many prototypes, etc., you could overinvest in actually building something that is not interesting to users at all. And I've also seen this in other research that I've done, is you should ask at least 80 users if they would buy your product and at what price before you even think of making a product. Okay. And that's not something that a lot of companies do very effectively. We kind of come up with ideas and we don't test if people actually would be interested in that. So engage with the users. Then you go into a process of discovery, which is kind of a formal process of really understanding what features, elements, and benefits you want to deliver in terms of the product. Then discover the product, okay? Because often we've got a great idea, but sometimes we don't even know how we're going to make money out of it. Okay, so we kind of need to come to the commercial side of the product discovery, do a prototype, deliver it, get to the point where it fits the market that you actually want to speak to, and then you have a product. But be very clear on what is the vision from that point onwards. Okay, so that when we are then working further on the product, we know kind of where we want to get to. So YouTube was a great example where I think we all know that YouTube works, and they developed it up to a point, but then they set a product vision where they wanted to stream 1 billion minutes of video and eventually 1 billion hours of video every minute. So every minute, 1 billion hours of video goes out of YouTube. And to set that vision, they had to obviously re-engineer that product many, many times in many different aspects to what we see today. And just for interest's sake, they achieved that, I think, 2 years ago, where every single minute of the day they are streaming out 1 billion hours worth of video. So if you look at it here on the right-hand side, and I hope you can see, and you can also maximize the screen on your right if you want to see more. But it is, we set our objectives, we discover, we build our prototypes, we get to a point where a product, we deliver that product, there's a product market fit, and the product manager is constantly looking at the value, the usability, the feasibility, and the viability of the product, while the technical lead focuses on reliability, scalability, performance, and maintainability. So there's definitely different roles, and the product manager is to be the custodian of the customer's needs, gaining those insights, building on those insights, and getting it done. And key point there is we use prototypes to conduct rapid experiments in product discovery, and then in delivery we build and release products to achieve product market fit, which is how we deliver on the company's product vision. That's kind of a summary of the section of the book. So cool. Please feel free to ask any questions on the left-hand side. If there's anything that you want to explore, please feel free. Okay, so in the book, there's a whole bunch of techniques, which I won't talk through all of them here. He talks about a product process, how do we discover projects, how do you assess opportunities, storyboarding, how customers misbehave, and how you can learn a lot from those misbehavior. Insights, using data-driven insights, using checking how people use your product, etc. Hacking days or hackathons, which is an example here of the right, where we literally just, the idea there is go sit, everybody works on something that's not their normal business, and they code for a day or 2 days or 3 days, and we come up with those ideas, we present them back, and whatever works, we start running with. And I know that that's a big thing at most of the large tech companies. Facebook does that quite often, and their hacking days are famous. Prototyping, coming up with a type of prototype, something that's visible, something that is demonstrating the feature. It could even be working code. And then if it works well, then going through the process of making it, getting it to a point where it could ship. Usability testing, value testing, which is trying to figure out exactly how much value there is in a product. And there's some key questions that you're asking, which I thought was quite an interesting aspect. Quantitative value testing, which is around understanding which features get used most, which get used less. Business viability, sprints for key areas, communicating product learning. So the book literally has like a section on each one of these techniques and how to deal with them. And also what I found very, very nice in reading the book is that it had like case studies of executives in top tech businesses and how they took this particular process or technique and used it. So definitely worth a read, and I found them quite relatable and interesting in terms of dealing with those particular people. And yeah, it just shows you that these are practical things that are being implemented. And I think the interesting part there is that it's often one company differentiates themselves with it, and if you put it together as a whole big picture, you can't do everything, but by seeing how others have done it, you could relate to it and start implementing it in your own practice. For me, the key takeaways from the book was product management is how great companies make great products. Okay, sounds obvious, but I think we often think that sales is the way that we're going to make great products, or better management, or better markets, or just understanding our customers a little bit better, etc. I think we need to realize that we need to make great products, and those great products rely on an approach to making great products. Improving your product should solve problems for your customers. I think we've outlined some of that in this presentation. And I don't think we should be scared to solve problems for our customers. Well, I think often we are, because we play things safe, because we know they work, because that's the way that we've been taught how to do them. How can we start asking the questions if we could do this differently? Products work when they fit the needs of customers. For me, the idea of a product market fit as a precondition to going to market is a very, very powerful approach to any kind of idea. There's a massive difference between discovery and delivery. And these are both processes that start overlapping at a particular point in time. And then I also think the idea of a minimum viable prototype as a discovery stage idea is very important, rather than a minimum viable product, which is more at a delivery stage. So if you contrast those two ideas, you could save a lot of time releasing bad products by prototyping them, checking if they work, and then making them work. So kind of a commercial break before I'll take any questions. This book relates very much to a specific course that we offer at SGI, which is Product Systems and Requirements Analysis in our Advanced Project Management, the second module of that, where we look at how do you make your projects customer focused, and also how do you manage the product of the project. Okay. And yeah, so if you want to learn more from that perspective, it's definitely one of our, in our module, we speak about this, and we reference some of the techniques and also look at it holistically in terms of how does it fit into the overall delivery of a project. So that's useful. And then as well, we are, yeah, this is the first of many webinars. And one of the ones that are coming up would be in Tetranyati betting on a darkie, which is on the 11th June. So look out for that. And if you're looking at this video, you'll be able to access that as well.